Hello and welcome back to As If, an art podcast with me, Lisa Fevral, and my assistant.
Hi.
She's on the phone again. Yeah, there's like a little bit of a weird audio going on.
Sorry about that.
My hair is wet because it's raining outside, so just ignore it. So, last week we filmed a video, podcast, tricks, tips on how to overcome stupid shit like imposter syndrome and stuff. I fucked up the audio. I don't know where it went, but it wasn't there when I went to edit it, so we have to refilm it.
Oh, it's so sad.
I know, I was almost like, every time something happens like this, especially if it happens with something where I have to wear a fucking costume to record, and I record for like hours alone or something like that, if something happens to either video or audio, I want to like jump off a cliff. Like, not to be dramatic. Actually, you know what? Maybe I should put my computer on this side.
We're here to talk about advice to make you not feel like an imposter, to give you some confidence, because the art world seems really scary and seems like it, or like, I guess it makes you feel like everybody is above you. But you know what? This advice will change your life. It changed my life. Just the one thing that Lisa said to me that changed my life and made me feel like, wow, everyone is irrelevant. Like, it's crazy because after she told me, I started looking at the world and looking at people, especially like these like really high up creatives, and I realized I don't have respect anymore for any of them.
Not me fucking like ruining the respect for
Yeah, you did ruin the concept of respect for me. Because honestly, I kind of have to fight myself now to have respect for them.
Dude, that's like my life every day. I have to fight myself to have respect.
Yeah, like when we say respect, we don't mean like
Human level. Yeah, we don't mean like human level of like being a dick for no reason or not respecting their humanhood or something like that.
Yeah,
that's not what we're talking about. We mean like work related stuff.
These like superficial things like following, clout, like really looking at their artwork now and like seeing it for what it is so much easier now. Sorry. No icons, no respect,
idols,
no
authority.
And it changed my life. So we're going to give you some advice on that.
Right. Because, like you usually assume that someone is in a position of authority because they know what they're doing. And it's just not the case, unfortunately. Most of the time. Like, there are some people who actually know what they're doing, but they are so far, like, so rare and far between. Is that how you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're basically like a rarity, an anomaly. Because it's just so surprising how many people just don't have, like, common sense. Let alone actual knowledge of how to do things.
Yeah, and I feel like you can, like, once you, why do we sound like we're like a fucking, like, cult trying to pitch, like, a lifestyle? Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's like minimalism, those, like, guys who are, like, in, like, black t-shirts that keep on talking about minimalism and how, like, oh, the best things in life, they're not even things at all.
No, you know what? Throw away your bed.
Yeah.
You'll be happier. And all you get from that is scoliosis. Like, fuck you.
All you get is scoliosis. Literally.
That did not make me appreciate life more. It's like so funny. They'll literally be in like such a beautiful couple $1 million house and just like nothing in it, and they're just like, yeah, I'm such a minimalist.
Yeah.
No, but
so funny.
What I was gonna say is once you start developing this mindset in a non-culty way, like,
as soon as you become one of us,
as soon as you join the Fevral Fairies commune, no, but seriously, like, after that, you'll start, I don't even know where I was going with that. I had such a good line. Fuck! Sorry, the cult thing got to me. But essentially, like, after you start developing all of this, like, not developing, but once you start internalizing this advice, you, like, your ability to work in this field gets so much easier. It does. And you can also like really start to decipher like who is a genuine artist. Like, you can just start feeling it. Like, there's like a sense of humanity that you can feel once you're able to like filter out the bullshit people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because most people like, because the thing is, we've got questions before about how many people in the industry are actually people who came from either outside of the industry entirely or came from quote unquote nothing, yada yada, right? And I would say a very small amount of people, like maybe 5%, to be honest with you. And it does not mean that it is how it's going to be or how it should be or it's the only way, whatever. I'm just saying that it is just an example of how rigged our entire system is. Not just rigged in terms of like arts, but in terms of just society. Like there are things like you can cross from really, really low class to maybe lower middle class, but you will never be able to jump all the way to like the rich or something like that unless you're an asshole. Sometimes that happens. Like you can harvest a bunch of organs and sell them, of course. Yeah. But like, would you be a good person doing that? No. It's not common to meet people in this line of work who are genuine, and it's even more rare to find people who are genuine and not both, but I guess people who made it on their own.
Yeah.
It's just rare. Straight up.
We're not trying to fearmonger.
Yes, this is not to say that you can't do it. This is just to say that don't get fooled by people who pretend to be like you, who pretend to have it, to understand it, or pretend like they actually came from nothing, so you start helping them or something like that. Because there's a lot of people who try to like extract labor out of others for free because they themselves don't have to pay their bills, so they don't understand this like pressure of actually working multiple jobs or something like that.
Yeah. Even just taking, like, seeing the potential of someone who is young in the industry or young in the, I hate the word industry, but young in the field, the creative scene, and like they can tell that you have good ideas and like good, like actual genuine thoughts, and they'll try to like milk that out of you without giving you anything, like at all.
And there's also this idea of like comparison, right? Like a lot of people compare where they are. And I'm going to tell you that there are like a lot of people that you're going to see, for example, people who are not from like super rich families or something like that, but they somehow figured out this whole like fine art scene really easily. So yeah, so you kind of have this like issue of realizing that it took you a long time to figure out the difference between art that's kind of a bit too primitive to be competitive in the field, and understanding conceptual art in general. Some people never understand it, and it's like whatever, because usually they can coast because they either are in a completely different line of work, which is more like, for example, handiwork, or like something that's more tactile, yes, but also like maybe more like small business based, like for example selling like pottery and stuff like that. It's not conceptual artwork, so you don't have to give a fuck about what conceptual art is, right? Like you don't have to really know that for your work to stack up to others.
And not that it can't be like the medium.
It can be, because it can be used, like any medium can be used for conceptual art, but it's just you don't have to do that. If you want to be making your own like cups, for example, a certain style or whatever, you don't have to know conceptual art to do that, because it's like it's not essential to your work. It's just like one of those things that's like kind of like on the periphery, right? But it's like it's just really strange, at least it was my experience, that I went to school. I did not go into arts right away, but I decided to take only courses that I wanted to take for one semester because I was like coming out of my depression era. And so I literally went and like took a bunch of courses, and it turned out that I was taking only visa courses, which is visual arts, and only film production courses. So I was like, mayhaps that's what I should do if that's like the only courses that I decided to take in a semester where I allowed myself to take courses that I want to take, right? And like based on what I learned, it took me like a whole year of going to all of those classes and stuff like that to really internalize and understand and jump over that hill of not understanding conceptual art fully. And And there's like a lot of people who think that understanding it is like basically being like, you can bullshit it and call it a day, which you can do it for a grade, but you cannot do it to your, like, you know that you're lying to yourself, basically. What I'm saying is like, there's like a different type of jumping over a hurdle when it comes to actually internalizing the difference between conceptual art as it is and how it functions to compare to arts that are skill-based only, right? Because the thing is, conceptual art is skill-based. You have to have some kind of skill, at least in my opinion. I think that the bullshit art that we get sometimes, it's annoying. Like, you're not Marcel Duchamp. You can't keep on doing this shit. Like, it was revolutionary in the beginning of 20th century. In the beginning of 20th century.
Like, it's old now, babe.
This is like, not, like, it's been more than 100 years since it was cutting edge, okay? Like, get a grip.
Yeah, like,
Ready-mades are not it anymore. Like, get over yourself, you know?
Wait, let's just like be really clear right now.
Yeah.
PSA, if you are starting art school this fall or whenever the fuck you're starting, do not ever a Marcel Duchamp reference. Please don't do it. Do not do the toilet thing. Like,
I mean, unless it's like the assignment, because sometimes they give you like the first couple of years they give you very narrow assignments. They will make you do something that you don't want to do the first couple of years, but don't don't get fixated on Marcel Duchamp and stuff like that. But I think that honestly, maybe it is something that you have to go through.
I think you'll have to go through learning about him for sure. But I don't know about, like, dude, the amount of people who in like third and fourth year still made urinal shit was crazy.
That's honestly nonsense. If you're in third or fourth years or like of art school and you're still doing takes on urinals. Anyway, so basically what I'm saying is you're going to be comparing yourself a lot to people around you. And if you are in the arts and it was your decision to be in the arts because you want to be an artist instead of you wanting to come off as an artist, and I'm talking to people who are just in upper middle class and rich who don't have anything to do, but they want to seem cool. They don't have anything to them, but they want to seem cool. Those people, they will be ahead of you in terms of like achievements on paper, because they are usually people who had a lot of free time growing up. They had a lot of time to eavesdrop when their parents were talking to their rich friends who are also into arts and buying shit and whatever. So they have an idea already of what conceptual art is because of like who they were surrounded with, especially if you live in like, if you move to like a city like LA or New York, where people are, even people who are not rich are surrounded by a lot of culture just by osmosis, you know, like it's just kind of permeates into their lives. You're gonna be in a situation where they internally get it more than you do at first. But then
there's a lot of times though I felt like, because obviously me and Lisa went to a school where there's a lot of rich people, like there's a lot, especially being in arts,
like 90% of the class are like filthy rich, basically. And
like not even just like mediocre, like actually filthy rich.
Like, yeah, I would have like discussions with a guy who's like, yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm blessed, whatever, but like he would continuously like he would continuously like have these fights with me about like class and whatever, and have like opinions that are kind of like trying to, like, I guess like he was trying to acknowledge his privilege, but he wasn't. Do you know what I mean? Like those types of people who are like acknowledging but not really. And then I would walk out hungry as fuck. I haven't eaten all day because I don't have money, and he just like passes by in a fucking Porsche.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
fucking fight.
And dude, you want to teach me about class?
I've had that happen so many times.
Lord.
Not a Porsche per se, like it will be like a Ferrari or Mercedes or something, but you know,
still,
same difference.
That same shit.
Same difference. No, but what I was gonna say is sometimes, especially when you're young and you're starting out, you can feel super inferior listening to people that come from this background because you think they sound so intelligent, they sound like they know what they're fucking talking about. Like they're like, wow, it's like they've been listening to fucking Mozart since they were like 1 year old because they're so fucking cultured. But honestly, a lot of the times I found that they actually don't really understand conceptual art that much.
They're
They just,
actually not really good, not very versed in terms of their
yeah,
topics. They know the names. For example, they can reference Kafka, but then when you actually read him, read what it's about, and you come back to conversations with the same people in class, you're all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, you don't know shit about it.
yeah, or they just are really, because of the way that they grew up and socialized, and like, and rich people are very well socialized people. So it's like they just have a charm to them, like the way that they talk. They're good talkers, but there's no content behind it. But when you're young and you don't really have all the info, it just sounds like knowledge,
Yeah,
'Cause
you
it
don't
just
have the context yet, so it
yeah,
kind of
it just
seems like
sounds
it.
good.
Like the first couple of years, you're gonna have this weird feeling of being behind, and then as soon as you catch up on like at least some concepts, because they will get stuck on concepts, like they will. Like one girl in our class was obsessed with the Sublime, and in every class she would bring it up. Every fucking class, like she just like obsessed with this one topic, and it would be every single fucking class she would bring it up. And it's like at some point you learn about it in one of the classes and you actually do the reading and you actually have your own thoughts, because unlike them, you were thinking your entire life, not just speaking. So
Yeah.
when you come back to that conversation, all of a sudden you're like, you got nothing to say about it. You know the names, you might know the dates, you have heard people use it in a sentence, but you can't form a new sentence to save your life. Like you're gonna understand how easy it is to actually outperform it. Like they're just not that good at anything. So if you put in work in anything, you will be ahead of them. That's how
Yeah,
lazy and uninteresting they are.
yeah, never be afraid of not knowing, because I feel like if you don't know things but you're curious, like you will be miles ahead in the future. Like
Yeah.
never be afraid of being like, yeah, I actually don't know this artist, I don't know this thing. Like that is so much more earnest and will get you way further than somebody who pretends to know shit.
Yeah, and being
Yeah.
like, for example, like when I went to school and I finally decided to like, well, I mean, I didn't really decide to switch to visual arts full on until third year. I was half and half. I was for 2 years. I was double majoring, and during that time, I remember that like when I decided that I'm gonna be in some kind of visual arts, whether it's like film production or visual arts, whatever. I was fucking going somewhere with this.
Like hard. Do we actually have ADHD? Maybe. No,
Maybe.
ADD
Yeah.
or something.
Where was I going with it? Oh,
Thing.
I would just
Yeah.
straight up tell people, like, especially because the first 2 years were very skill based, and I never painted. I've never drawn anything, and I had to draw well enough that I would get at least a B in class, right? Like, all of a sudden, I was like, oh fuck, like I have to draw so many drawings of people, of faces, my own face, whatever, to make it look good enough that I could get a good grade in this class, where people are all like, most people in visual arts are people who have been drawing before, and like in at least in before you go into like conceptual art, like when it's people who might go into design later or something like that, where it's like specifically skill based, you have a lot of people who actually know what the fuck they're doing. I straight up just told people, I was like, I've never drawn. I've never drawn anything in my life. I've never painted. I tried painting when I was 6 years old, and I had a really mean teacher who was like a dick to me, and I just stopped going.
6 years old being a dick to a 6-year-old is crazy.
Yeah, Russian teachers are really something. Like
Yeah.
French teachers too. Like some European teachers are like docked in the head. They're so mean.
Yeah.
It's like they have beef with 6-year-olds. It's fucking crazy. And I remember that like when I was 13, I almost got kicked out of school because of my grades in visual arts.
Damn.
Yeah, they were trying to kick me out because of my behavior. Because
More sense.
yeah, and I wasn't really doing anything like it's there were so many students who were like literally, it was a religious school, and they were literally smoking behind our school, behind our church. And they knew it, and they were like, they would just like kind of get like a slap on the wrist. But I was getting in so much trouble just because I would be like, when I started getting my period, and they were like, not allowing you to enter church when you're on your period. And I was like already so pissed on such a visceral level that I even have to have periods. And I was like 11, I think, at that point, that I would start skipping prayer in the morning, straight up just like not show up. And they got so pissed at me, and I started to weaponize their own like rules against them and like do it in such an obvious way because I was trying to be a dick, honestly. Like I wasn't trying to actually get away with it as much as I was trying to like show them how stupid they are. So I would genuinely tell them to their face, being like, oh, I'm on my period, and they're like, Lisa, you can't be on your period for 4 months. I'm like, you don't know, do you want to check?
See, guys,
are you gonna check?
Yeah. See, guys, I did that same thing, actually. But not for righteous reasons, just to skip basketball season.
Well, yeah, like I just didn't want to go into the church. I was just like lazy. I didn't want to stand there and pray for half an hour. I would do the same thing with gym too, because I hated gym. I would just not bring uniform and be like, I don't have uniform. Do you want me to just like exercise in my skirt? And they would be like, no, bitch, go sit down, whatever. And like the thing is, that's why, because I had beef with every priest who was our teacher and stuff like that. I had beef with all of them, except for one who was a metalhead. I don't know why he was a priest and a metalhead. It's a weird combination, but whatever. And I know. And like that was the only one who like didn't mind me. Every single other one hated me, like hated my guts, because I was like, literally, we had that conversation about that dude who almost killed his son because God told him to. And I was like, okay, so you want to tell me that he just heard in his brain that God told him to go kill his son, right? So you want to tell me that if I hear when I have kids, if I have kids, back then I said when, because obviously you can't say if, because they're gonna fucking shoot you on the spot. But I said like when you have kids, whatever, if you hear in your mind, in your head, that God is telling you to kill them, you think that's normal and I should do it? Okay. Because I know a few people, like I literally know a few like situations that happened recently where a woman killed all of her children because she had she thought that God told her to. And they're like, no, it's different. I'm like, how? How do you know that it's different? That it's God or not, like fucking schizophrenia? Like, how do you know? And basically they just hated me for that, because every class I would bring up something because it was bothering me, because it wasn't logical. Like nothing was logical in that class, and they just hated it. So my teachers really wanted to get rid of me, like not have me in school anymore, but they couldn't do it because I had like really high grades in everything, and I was in all the like we had like Olympic
AP classes. If you're in,
it's not West. Really AP classes, because it was like competition, like citywide, countrywide, and stuff like that. And I was in those for like math, physics, and stuff like that, and like Russian language and literature, like, and all of those. So they couldn't get rid of me because of my grades. But one thing I was really bad at: visual arts. And now she's a visual arts bitch. Like, that's crazy. Because I literally almost got kicked out because I did not hand in any drawings, any paintings, nothing. So I had to pay my mom's friend's son, who was in painting school or like visual arts school, to draw and paint shit for me quickly so I can hand it in. And then I had to like have this whole like review with the whole like fucking council. And my dad had to be there and like talk to them and whatever the fuck. Like I genuinely almost got kicked out of school in 7th grade for painting.
Damn.
For drawing and painting. No, that's so stupid. It's the stupidest thing. Like I think that it's so funny that it's specifically that. Nothing bad. That's why it's even more stupid.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Like, it's not like, oh, Lisa was a smoker who was smoking behind the school. She wasn't doing this or doing that. She just didn't paint. Like, hello?
She just didn't like to draw.
Yeah, she didn't like to draw. That fucker. And now it's like, it's just so funny to see that, like, now I have a degree in it. Yeah, so when it comes to getting used to being in school, there's gonna be some time, like, honestly, the entire time, another thing that's gonna bother you is, the fact that the assignments are so fucking expensive to complete, because not only is it expensive to like buy your pass to class, you know, just buying the actual fucking class. On top of that, you're not provided with any like
materials.
You have to buy all of them, whether it's a skill-based class where, like, for example, you're doing printing, right, and you have to buy every single piece of paper. Like, one sheet of paper is $5. That's how expensive it is. And you have to do 6 to 8 prints per assignment, and there's an assignment every week. Can you imagine how much money that was? I was literally starving just so I could hand in assignments.
Yeah, that 3% milk latte.
Fuck, I know.
Keeping me and Lisa
per day. That's all I had.
Yeah, same here.
I fucked up my metabolism so bad in school. Like, the first couple of years, I was too skinny because of, like, well, I wasn't, like, too skinny to other people, but to me, for my body type, I was too skinny. And then my metabolism slowed down so much that I was, like, unable to eat more than 500 to 700 calories a day without feeling like I'm gonna puke. And that was not on purpose. It was just I didn't have money. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm like, I want to be skinny like a little bitch. Like, no. Like, it was genuinely just not having money.
It's funny because we didn't even know each other that well at this time, but we were both doing the same thing. Because we had the same order. And, like, it really... even
at the same place, even the same fucking place on campus. And our campus is huge.
Huge. Which is, like, so...
It's so fucking funny. I wish we were friends back then, because at least we would have, like, we would be some kind of support for each other, because I genuinely felt like I was the only one who had to struggle this much, because I was. Like, I genuinely, like, didn't know anybody else who had to skip meals just to stay in school.
Yeah, totally.
Like...
Dude, or like, had to, like, literally just have caffeine all day just to even stay awake because you worked a shift.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Because I would, like, get up at, like, 5 to 6 a.m. to go to work before I would go to school for another 6 to 7 hours. Mm-hmm. And that's not to account for assignments, because most of your, like, art school time is, like, you just doing work on your own. And it was just it was a mess. And, like, I think now thinking about it, I'm like, it's crazy because... genuinely, it's so demoralizing that there's no limit to how much money you can spend on your work, and no one is checking whether you're paying somebody else to do it. I literally had people, like, for example, we had one girl who could afford to have movers just, like, pay men to come and, like, install shit for her. Mm-hmm. She had money to buy just, like, an insane amount of, like, objects. They're, like, the same, so she could make a huge installation, and of course it looks more impressive than something you can do with $20 in a dream, not dream. Oh my god, dream.
Literally.
Like, of course it's gonna look.
I already know who you talking about.
Yes,
I was there when they were moving shit.
Exactly, and I was like, oh, how did you get that or whatever? I genuinely was just, like, so confused, because like, she went to, like, this, like, European shows, and she had her stuff there, even though we were only third year. So I was like, wow, your work must be really good. Of course, me being naive and silly, no, it's just she had money to pay somebody to get her stuff into that gallery. It's literally just money, which is, like, so disheartening, because it makes it so not worth it in terms of, like you feel like, why am I even putting in work into this?
Yeah, like,
why are we doing anything if it's not about merit at all?
Yeah, totally. And it's like, we were working 8-hour shifts every fucking day after or before work or before school. And it was like, dude, what is literally the point of, like, suffering for this when people are just, like,
it was just sad, like, honestly.
And not to be a hater, but I've seen the work, and that it's like,
yeah. And you know what, on top of that, like, there was another girl in my class who was, like, again, had this whole, like, by the way, this is so weird to me, because to me, like, farmers were just, like, workers just like everybody else. They weren't, like, people who had a shit ton of stuff, but they're pretending to be hicks or something like that. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on in the West, but, like, the farmers here are, a lot of them are rich, but they're acting like they're pretending to be salt of the earth type of people.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? Can you dress normal? That's not you. This whole fruity little voice that you put on.
Yeah.
this whole redneck little voice that you've put on. That's not you, bitch. Because you have a $6 million house, so maybe shut the fuck up. I don't know. And
And
like,
it's like a family plot that's been owned for years and years and years. Like they're actually like driving fucking Porsches and Maseratis and shit.
yeah, but they're like, we're just salt of the earth, we're like farmers, right? Yeah, those immigrants that you pay less than minimum wage, which is illegal, are the ones who are doing the work that you're pretending you're doing. Just saying. But anyway, so we had like this girl who was farmer type of girl, right? And she also had like her workers and her family, like her brothers or whatever, bring a bunch of shit and install an entire like massive installation. Didn't have to do anything, she herself. Because if I were to do something this big, I would have to do everything.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I would have to pay about $3,000 to $5,000 to pay for just the supplies, right?
Yeah. And then maybe beg your friend, oh, can you help me bring this up the stairs, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. And
that's
like,
the support you get.
It's just like one of those things where you're basically not going to be in a fair situation. And if you are in a conceptual art school or whatever, try to pick a medium that you can afford for now, at least.
Yeah.
Like, really lean into it. Look up artists who were poor as shit, who actually did something or whatever, right? Like, who were using like their bed sheets or something. Like, I used the bed sheet for one of my artworks, but it was like part of the concept too. So like, try to like think about how you can utilize things without like, because I was trying to match up. You can't, because you don't have enough money. They spend an exorbitant amount of money just to make it look like they know what they're doing, when in reality they just have money and their concept is not even well thought out. When you ask them questions about their concept, it's like really it's kind of like made out of fucking popsicle sticks. Like, you hit it once, it falls apart. That's how badly, how not well thought out it is, and how little they actually can do mentally speaking. Like, it's just they're not that good at what we are supposed to be good at, which is conceptual work.
Which I think you can absolutely build without spending all that money on like physical materials. It's, I mean, besides being interested in like AI, internet culture and all that stuff, like it's a big reason why I did digital, because it was cheaper. And like I could still get my points across. So yeah, like totally like fucking lean into it. Don't pretend
lean
to be
into something that is like not gonna literally break your bank, but also don't be lazy though, because I had like we had again rich fucks in class who were getting grants for their work being reading a fucking grocery list that they've made. That was their work, their artwork, reading a grocery list. It's so disappointing. I remember I would like do something. I would put in so much work into something. I've made a literal mini album for one of my classes. I did like photo shoots for it. I learned how to produce music for it. I literally produced an album for it. And then someone comes in and they just read a grocery list.
And the worst part is like you're thinking about it. You're like, damn, not even I can afford what's on that grocery list.
Yeah, fuck, honestly. And it's just like so depressing, because you're like you guys are not even trying. But because you're utilizing this lazy tactic of just saying a bunch of bullshit, plus on top of that, you are consistently spending your time in the professor's office out of hours, like out of like school hours or whatever, just to like bond with them
and befriend them.
And it's like, I have to work anyway. So basically just like don't, and it's similar to real life, obviously. Like in real life, people who have money, they can afford more stuff, whatever. But what I'm trying to say here is like, don't compare yourself here, because it's just useless, and they are a lot less capable than you are anyway. They're not your competition, because they're not someone who actually can compete with you. They're not someone who knows how to do things themselves. So why are you even comparing yourself to someone who's a literal child?
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
They can't pay their own bills. I remember like I had this whole fight with that girl who's like also like that farmer girl. The reason why I'm saying that they were like literal children is because she was fighting with me, right? About something like having kids, for example. I told her, what do you as a 19-year-old have to offer a child? Explain that to me. And she's like, well, Kylie Jenner had a kid or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, right. Let's all take her as an example because she's so great. She's so smart and so useful to society. She's not a leech on society's back at all. You're right. I told her, I was like, where do you live? She's like, well, I live part-time on like my, farm and then part-time in the city. And I'm like, who pays for your apartment?
Part-time.
Part-time. She part-time.
Living part-time in two places sounds fucking crazy.
Yeah. And she's like, well, I live with, like, obviously it's like a family home, the farm home, right? But then in the city where there's an apartment next to her classes, literally on campus, paid by her parents. I'm like, okay, so you pay for your classes yourself, right? No. Okay. Have you ever had a job that was not like given to you by your parents or your parents' friends or something? No. Okay. Do you pay your bills? The utility bills on that apartment? No.
Your phone bill.
And I was like, next time you're going to be talking about this to somebody, talk to someone who's also a kid. Do not talk to adults like me.
Oh, period.
Sorry.
I wish I was there.
Sorry, I was actually taking care of my business. I was taking out loans to pay for my education. I was working while I was in school. I was working 2 jobs in the summer where I was working 60 hours a week, which I don't recommend because I think that's what fucked up my health, to be honest. And I'm still in so much debt, and it's fucked up my life so much, like this sacrifice that I've made, right? And you want to have this conversation with me as if we're on the same footing? You don't even know how to fucking pay rent. You don't know how to go to a work or a place of work where you don't have some kind of nepotism. And you want to compare this?
Yeah, and you want to have not just compare, but you want to have a child.
Yeah. You want to have a conversation about responsibility with someone who actually knows responsibility?
Literally, it's like you having a child would be like a child raising a child.
That's what I told her. I was like, do you understand that? Like, you have nothing to offer a child. She's like, well, my parents. And I'm like, then your parents should have another child.
Not you, bitch.
Not you, bitch. And like, I don't know. It was like, it was so like annoying. But like, that's kind of the example, just the one example for you guys to understand how out of touch they are. How much they will participate in conversations with you and act as if they're on the same footing with you, as if they are as independent as you are, as if they can do as much as you can do, because on paper they have an apartment, they live alone, they have education, they have money to go into like a master's program or something like that immediately after, yada yada yada, right? They basically have all of these things that on paper look like they're more successful than you are, but they are children. You won't get anything out of having conversations with them because they don't actually know what they're talking about. It's kind of like genuinely having this, like I've always said this and I'm gonna continue on saying it. It's kind of like talking about fucking Dostoevsky with someone who doesn't know the alphabet. Like, sure, we can talk about it, but you have never even read before because you don't even know how to.
Yeah. Totally. Ugh.
So yeah, we weren't on talking terms after that.
Fair enough. Fair. Not on your part, because it's like they were humiliated by that. So it's just humiliated by the truth of things.
Yeah, because what am I supposed to say? Lie to you? Like, you're being rude as fuck right now, thinking that you can talk to people like this.
Yeah, no, it's just like, it's like a child playing make-believe.
Yeah.
It's like, what in what world in reality are you in right now? Mm-hmm. Because it's not the real one. Yeah. Let me tell you that. It's some kind of weird thing you made up in your head.
It's just like, it was really weird. And like, that's kind of the thing that you're going to keep on running into with people who are either, like, for example, you meet somebody who is younger than you in a position in the biggest gallery in on the West Coast. You go talk to them and you're like, wait, you don't have an education in visual arts? What about archival stuff? No. What about museum work? No. They have nothing to do with what they're doing in that institution. And you're confused. You're like, wait, how did you... Because the thing is, we literally had that situation where we went to a gallery meet a bunch of people there, and everyone who's in the office, everyone who has a salary, everyone who has something like gets money for being there professionally, as in like working actually in the arts, like proper jobs, right? None of them were qualified. Yet we saw a few people who we knew, who went to school with us,
Yes.
who we know also got a master's, for example, who have good works and who actually have like been published in like academic papers and whatever, and they are checking tickets at the door.
Yeah, and it was really sad too, because like this particular moment and this particular person was like one of the only other people, because she graduated with me.
Yeah.
We were the same age, and she was like one of the only other people that I knew like paid for her own school, like didn't grow up with privilege, and it was like the one person I could talk to about that kind of stuff. And like she has a master's in visual arts, and like to see her like just selling tickets while this younger girl who has no experience, and me and Lisa were just wiping her up with knowledge and
we didn't know, because the thing is, it's her job to talk to us and tell us about the exhibition, and she literally knows less than we do.
Yeah, and it was like really, 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 it was like a really depressing moment.
It was really sad.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit, like, I don't even know what to say here.
Yeah, it kind of like was a moment where it whipped us back into like how university was, and that's why it was so sad. It was absolute shit, but
it's like competing in something that was made into a money competition. And it's weird because like when I would be talking to professors about it, I would be like, that's just weird, right? They wouldn't understand me at all. And I think that this is, again, just like also a cultural difference, because even though there is a lot of like bullshit going on, a lot of like paying off and stuff like that in universities, in terms of structure, like you can pay somebody illegally to do something for you or whatever the fuck, but in terms of how it is set up, you're not allowed to spend more than a certain amount on art. At least you weren't allowed to do that in Russia. Like you weren't allowed to do that. You weren't allowed to pay somebody else to do your work, even though you could do that. It would be illegal. By illegal, I mean you're gonna get kicked out if like actually someone finds out, right? There's a lot of obviously what is it called? Corruption. But in general, here they genuinely just kind of go, well, yeah, if they have more money, they can invest more into their work, and that's fine. What do you mean that's fine? There needs to be a limit, like a dollar limit, how much you can spend on something, because it is just not fair, because we are also graded on a bell curve. And they kept on being like, Lisa, well, this is just how real life is. And I'm like, yeah, but in real life, I don't pay them to evaluate my work, to give me feedback that's relevant to me instead of relevant to everybody else around me and their money.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Like here, you're supposed to be working for me, not the other way around. I'm paying you crazy amounts of money to actually give me feedback and teach me, instead of trying to stack me up against a bunch of other like CEO daughters and stuff like that.
Which was like one of the most frustrating things ever, because it's like if your class wasn't performing, you weren't. And it's like, for somebody who has to fucking work so hard, like that's just like the most aggravating, but also most like prophetic. I wouldn't even say prophetic. It was just like, what is it? A metaphor for like how things are in society. Like,
yeah, but it's like, it's so weird because they genuinely were like confused as to why I was asking this. And this is definitely a cultural difference where I'm like, yeah, okay, the reality, like our society functions like this. And now what? We could function differently. You know that. But they are like, they're hell-bent on it, that it's like not possible, that people need to be suffering for them to live better, and you have to be grateful, and that like erases your responsibility. Like as long as you're grateful that you're in a position where you get everything and someone else has to suffer on your behalf,
that's enough for them.
That's enough for them, which is just crazy to me. Like you can't be fucking serious. It's like oligarch behavior.
Yeah. Well,
like, I mean, mentality.
Western equivalent, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, like Western society is just like an oligarchy. straight
Yeah.
up. And it's like so weird because like they genuinely think that this is somehow morally right. They don't see
Yeah.
anything wrong with it. You like bring it up and they're like, what are you talking about?
Huh?
You should get used to it. And I'm like, it's a school. It's not real. Like, it's not a market. It's a
Yeah, you're just
school.
like, it's just a way of life. Because one of my one of my law classes, I literally had a girl whose father was in the goddamn UN say that. It's just like, what did she say? It's something along the lines of like if you think about it, it's kind of just like, you can't know happiness without sadness. I mean, there would be no rich without poor. Like, bitch, I'm gonna slap you.
No, I'm gonna shoot you. As
Yeah,
you should be. Sorry to say.
She's part of our lineup.
Yeah, straight up. Like, I have a whole list.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like, you are fundamentally fucked. Because it's one thing when they don't know. And it's another thing when you talk to them when they actually learn that there are different ways of how it can be done.
Yeah.
But they're like, but I wouldn't have 3 jets in this case. And it's like,
Ugh,
yes.
I don't know if I could give up my jet.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well then you're straight up evil because you know what you're doing. You're doing it on purpose and you're happy and you think that there's like this like scarcity, like, oh, well, if I eat, someone else has to not eat. And it's like, no, we have enough for everybody. It's just you're getting more than you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you're hoarding it and stuff like that. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's just like, you're so fundamentally evil because you know. It's not like you're ignorant. You know, and you choose it. That's like basically what like Bezos is and Musk is. For those people, I don't have any sympathy whatsoever. Honestly, actually, it's on site as soon as I see them.
Yeah, I think it's on site for sure.
That's why when I was like thinking about it, like I was like, oh, like if I'm just like a fashion fucking influencer or something like that, and I would have to go to an event and there's someone like this there,
we're going to jail.
yeah, I'm going to jail. Like, what am I gonna? That's why it's like I'm the worst influencer imaginable. I cannot be put in the same room with those fuckers, and they're everywhere because people just like accepted that they are, not only have they accepted their existence, but they are revering them for it. They're like, this is actually something you should be aspiring to. How fucked in the head do you have to be to look at someone like such a loser, like someone who has no brain cells and just like maybe fucking two brain cells left that are communicating about scarcity in society left in their brain. And I'm supposed to not only not hate them, but like want to be them.
So
I don't know, you guys. It looks like honestly a perfect lineup for an execution.
Yeah, for just,
what is it called? Like firing squad? Yeah.
Yeah, a firing line. Yeah,
firing squad.
No, you know what's so funny, Lisa? We literally in the episode that we lost the audio to, RIP. It hurts every time I mention it.
I know. It was so good too.
Yeah, we had such a funny. We also were talking about firing squad, but we had like a funny name for it, and now I can't remember, and we'll never know because the audio is gone.
Please.
Anyways,
I'm so sad now.
But anyways, let's like get into like the actual good advice stuff.
Yeah, we need to like the last 10 minutes. We're gonna do rapid fire advice. Yeah. First of all, we actually mentioned it last time, so I'm gonna like mention it again. Remember to like, if you are a young artist who just started out, keep all the ideas that you have right now, all of your notes and whatever, because you're gonna have a moment when you're gonna think they're so fucking stupid and you're not gonna want to see them and might even want to throw them out. Don't do that, because those ideas are the purest ideas you're gonna have before you're gonna start being influenced by the industry. And I specifically say industry because it's not a scene, it's not like society or some other like word like that. It's literally an industry. Like the business is going to start influencing you and your decisions, and those ideas are going to be the purest ones you're going to ever have, and they're going to be the most connected to who you are as a person, instead of trying to impress somebody, either the audience or your peers.
And you'll find yourself, you know, like I feel like the more I hate that, like, for lack of a better term, the more woke you get, like, about your own practice and about yourself as a person and an artist, the more you'll gravitate towards going back to those ideas. You just will have the better, you will just have way better skills to execute them now when you're in a certain place.
Because you're actually going to be able to like live up to those expectations that you had, like more idealized kind of, you know, works that you had in your head. Because I remember that I would have like this idea of what I wanted to do, and I had to compromise so much that it would turn into something that I didn't want to do at all. And if you get to, you know, gain some kind of capital or whatever over time, that you would actually be able to do it properly one day, it will morph, it will change. You will have ideas that are more fleshed out. You will have more complex ideas when it comes to issues that were bothering you as a young person. But it's just something that is so untainted by the bullshit of everybody else around you, that it's gonna be one of those things that's actually gonna get you out of any rut in terms of creativity in the future. You will be able to go back and be like, actually, yeah, like that kind of slaps. Like that was an interesting thing to think about, or it actually still bothers me or still connects with me really well.
Yeah, or you see traces of it throughout all of your work.
Yeah, you're actually going to be able to like see something that's like traceable throughout the entire career, because there are just some things that you might give a fuck about, some things during different times of your life, but there's just some things that are more visceral to you, and they are something that is going to be visceral to you the entire time. Because I actually was really surprised when it comes to like even journals. When I went back to see like this journal, I had an online journal when I was like from 10 to 14 or something like that, and I went back because people are always like, oh, if you don't think about the way that you were last week and cringe, then like you're not actually growing or whatever the fuck. And I remember I went back to like read those entries. That bitch was smart. I was surprised. I was like, I went back and I was like, would I cringe or something? And like, there's some things that I changed opinions on things, but I don't think I changed myself as much as I just kind of learned more things and have refined my ideas more. So I think that you're still going to have a lot of connection with that young person that wrote those things back then. And it's going to really help you get through ruts in your creative work. What else? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah, you have to tell. This is the advice that you gave me that really helped me stop comparing myself to other people.
Which one was it? You tell me.
Oh, it was. I think I could probably find. Dude, I can probably find the exact text that you sent me, because it like actually, guys, changed my life. I think it was along the lines of, you said it way more eloquently than I'm going to say it now. I also have sick brain, so pardon me. But essentially, it was along the lines of, don't compare yourself to other people who, if you really look deeply into their work, into how they got to where they are, you would have no respect for them. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Not that they're like, and this is not everybody. Okay, we're not saying it's everyone in the industry, but it is a lot of people in the industry. Like, to be, especially where I was in my career at that time, like I was kind of like adjacent to these people that I really admired, but not quite there. But then we were talking about the fact that like I literally came from butt fuck nothing, and I'm so close to being right there, where these people who are way more privileged than me, way more like had way more connections, money, all of these things, were just slightly above me. And that was already an accomplishment in itself. It's like I got there out of pure will, hard work, and because I have good ideas, and they're just right above me, not even miles above me, just right there. Because the bottom line was, they had all of these backings that got them there. They had a security net that got them there, but it wasn't their ideas. It wasn't their work.
They were born at the finish line.
Yeah, it wasn't their work ethic that got them there.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I meant in the beginning about like the no icons, no idols, like no respect, and not in a mean way, but like you need to stop having imposter syndrome and thinking that all these people are better than you, because in an industry like this one, money and nepotism is like rampant.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, you know, like when people are afraid that they're not going to be good drivers or something like that, and I'm like, have you seen the dumb bitches that drive?
Yeah.
You'll be fine. That's how you
with
should
the
get rid of all of those ideas. It's just like, go and meet people, you know, try at least and meet people who work in a position, like a job that you want right now, for example, not even the job that you would want to have one day, but the one that you want right now. Like realistically, that you are kind of like getting an education to get, or whatever, like entry level job. You're gonna meet them and you're gonna be like, oh my god, you can't put two and two together. That's crazy.
I mean, there's the old saying goes is to never meet your idols,
because it does ruin it. It does ruin it.
It ruins it.
And it makes it so much easier to believe that there are people who are better than you. Like, it's easier to live in a world where you're like, this person is actually like, they've put in the work to be wiser, to be smarter, to be kinder. And then you meet them and you're like, god damn it.
Yeah, you're just
why aren't you better? You should be better. You've been here for 20 years longer than I am, or you have gotten this and that to be where you are today, and you're still not better. You had all this time in your childhood to not work your ass off, to not be at a job that's like a dead-end job that really fucks up your health at the very young age. You could have spent all that time actually bettering yourself, and you're still nowhere near what you should be.
Yeah. Totally.
It entirely changes your whole entire life, because you're like sitting there like, wow, you really can't do shit.
Yeah. It changes your perspective on like if you lack in confidence, you don't even need to meet these people. Search them up. Honestly.
Search them up.
Search them up.
This is literally like kind of like, this is where the name I Don't Believe You came from. It was at first the collective, like art collective name, because it was used by Stanislavski, this guy who was like, if you're into acting, you know who he is, but he would tell his actors on the stage, like, I don't believe you, which means you can do better. You can do more authentically. You can provide something of more value. You're not doing it. The it that you were actually hired to do. I don't believe you, right? And it's like, the thing that I honestly feel about most people I meet is that they don't actually give a fuck. They are there because they got lucky. And it's not like I don't hate them for it. They're just there because life is like this. Life just does shit. Like, sometimes you die for no fucking reason, and sometimes you live for no fucking reason. And it's the same thing with them, you know? And I don't feel angry about them being in that position as much as I don't feel inferior to them, because I am actually a lot better than they are, and I know it because I can do more than they can do. If you were born at the finish line and someone was born at the very beginning of the marathon and they still somehow ended up catching up to you, bitch, you got work to do.
Yeah, you got 100%. Dude, fucking put that on a fucking shirt. Put that on a fucking shirt.
Because it's funny. Like, it's just like pathetic at this point. You need to get your shit together. And this is what you're going to notice every time you meet people who you thought were doing better than you are, or more capable than you are. It's all the time the same shit over and over again. And it is a little bit demoralizing, because it makes you feel like there's nowhere to go. And there's no example of how to get better as a person or whatever. But I think that that's why you shouldn't be looking for those like things in other people, or maybe look at people who are your actual peers and learn from not their work, but them as people. Like, if you meet somebody who's just genuinely kinder than you are, there's something to not learn there even, but to appreciate about that person.
Yeah.
And through appreciation, you might get better yourself.
Yeah. Damn, girl, you are speaking too many eloquent, beautiful lines right now. This audio better not get lost.
Bitch, if it gets lost, I'm gonna get lost.
Yeah, I'm about to get lost. Like, bye. No, but yeah, exactly. Like, there's a sense of humanness and, like, empathy that you can feel in certain people's artwork. And because you know that they've thought long and hard about it, and they embrace like these things that are not just like they're living life for real.
Yeah.
You know, it's not this aesthetic shit that they're praising, which is like my other form of advice that I want to give. It's not really like advice, but like something that helped me get through a lot of like feeling inferior, because I'm like, I'm like, maybe I feel like I'm not the most knowledgeable on things and yada yada yada, especially now in the industry that I work in, which is more fashion oriented. And it's like there's so many young and up and coming people who are like so into like brands and aesthetics to an intense degree, where it's like all they can talk about is like name dropping and stuff like that. There was a point in time where I felt really inferior, because I'm like, what am I doing trying to make clothing and do editorials when I don't even know these up and coming names and stuff like that? What I'll say is, something I like to keep in mind is the aesthetic precedes the culture.
Yeah, now that's what it is.
Yeah, now that's what it is. And we talk about this a lot, but like, don't be afraid to not know things, because I think like admitting that you don't know things is the one way you can stop from just being an aesthetic. It's kind of like like obsessing over aesthetic versus obsessing over like why you like the things that you like. Because how when we were younger, we all had like an ugly phase, and nowadays people don't have an ugly phase. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's because we were like trying to discover what we liked, like what style we liked, what music we liked, like going through these different like subcultures and niches to like figure out ourselves. And like now it's like everything is so easily accessible. Oh, I want to look like a stupid aesthetic,
downtown
like,
girl.
Yeah, like a downtown girl, or like clean girl aesthetic. Like now you can just literally search that up on aestheticwiki.com and it will tell you what to do. So you never like go through the culture of like discovering what you like,
Yeah, and being influenced, for example, like I like this music, and because I like this music, there's this like singer exactly. who's the most popular, who also starts to influence you, and you end up dressing like more like them, and then you were like, oh, they're dressing like goths, for example, or something like that. Like you find out through more natural ways, rather than being like, what is this aesthetic? Can someone tell me in the comments what aesthetic this is?
Or like doing it more in just like a reasons for clout, like trying to like present in a certain way, but it's like there's no passion behind it, so like just remember that, like don't be afraid of like not knowing who you are yet or what you like. Go through all the awkward phases of like finding it, and like dive into the cultures, dive into like all of these niches and stuff, and figure it out, because your work will be more nourishing and just so much more full going through it that way.
Yeah. And you're gonna be actually living like a person.
Yeah, and you'll be living life like a person, like discovering things for yourself and like experiencing things versus like pretending you know a bunch of things and then projecting it outwards. Instead
of being like a hedge fund loser, who's like literally just like pretending to be living life.
Yeah. Totally.
Anyway, this has been the advice episode.
I hope you enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be back next week with a video on a movie and like eroticism in movies, I guess.
Yeah, and it will be a comedy. You guys will love it. We have a lot.
It's gonna be funny as shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be definitely less serious than this. It will be. I'm excited for it.
I know, me too. We're gonna really roast every character in that fucking thing.
Yeah, we had a blast. We saw this in our local. It's like smaller theater that. It's
like an indie theater called the Cinematique.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fucking fun as shit, honestly. Except for one moment that we're gonna discuss. Anyway.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.